besides the news and finding Dory, the social distance between us, and I'm freaking out. Hello from the inside. It's just me and myself and I, and a stay-home order that's breaking my heart, but it's clearly what we should have done from the start.
So, okay, everyone, thank you for being here with us. Today, we have started with a very creative way. My name is Nikos Panagiotou. I am Associate Professor at School of Journalism and Mass Media Communication, and also in charge of Digital Communication Network, Southeast Europe Hub. Today, actually, we have a very special topic. It's part of the series of webinars that we have launched on 20th of March together with World Learning and Digital Communication Network, which is a coalition of digital influencers for improving the information space, and it is supported by the US Department of State Office of Citizens Exchanges. Thank you everyone for being here with us, and especially our guest. Just before I pass the floor to Narek, I would just like to let you know something that we have came up to regarding today's webinar. It will be something like a contest. For those of you that you're registered, you can post in the chat a clean joke that you have heard or created during the social distancing period. And if that happens, we will choose one and give actually a prize. If you actually upload one in the chat, we will select the best one in order to give a prize. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Narek, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. And as we usually do in these days of Corona, let me just do my social distancing stuff first. Okay, I'm Narek Margaryan. I'm the co-host and writer on a show called Armcomedy here in Armenia. Our show is basically, let's say, something like The Daily Show. We make fun of politics, everything related to politics. And of course, we've been hit by the coronavirus just as much as everyone else. And it's been a little hard. You know, we've gone from doing a Zoom version of the show. Now we're back in the studio. But still, there are some restrictions. The country is in the state of emergency. But the funny thing here in Armenia was when this whole thing started gathering the buzz, and I'm talking like late January, you know, with China being the lead in coronavirus, people here in Armenia heard about coronavirus. And the first thing, our first reaction to fighting coronavirus was this. Okay. People started burning, this is Laden, this is the thing they use in churches to cleanse spiritually. And there was a belief that somehow this kills the bacteria, this kills the coronavirus bacteria. And wherever you went, was it a bank or a supermarket, offices, you would hear this has a very distinct smell. And people thought, well, okay, once we burn this, we don't have to worry about handshaking. And we have this custom of kissing, you know, when we meet, we go like, and it's the normal practice. And this thing was kind of misleading. So we decided to use the show as a public social advertisement kind of platform to say that this thing doesn't kill coronavirus. Remember that meme with the Wolf's Blitzer? Something doesn't kill coronavirus. And that was one of them. The other thing, we have this homemade vodka type of drink. that is believed to help you when you have the flu, and people actually started taking that and believing now they are immune to the coronavirus. And the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, did not help much in the beginning because he was the one who was doing a referendum campaign, going from one small city to another small city and making jokes that, well, if the coronavirus is approaching, we will drink this vodka and we will cleanse it. And, you know, people really took this attitude. They took it seriously until at some point everyone thought that, well, okay, this thing looks serious. People are dying. And from being in complete denial, Armenia immediately went into state of emergency with self-isolation and everything. And we also have a website of satiric news. In the website, we thought, well, what's going to happen? So we posted a satiric article. This is our Minister of Health. And the headline says that the Minister of Health will ban kiss hellos when guys meet each other. We will ban kisses. This went viral on the internet, and about 3 or 4 hours later, the actual minister really went to a press conferences and said, okay, let's put a hold on kissing. He really banned kissing for a while, and then the whole state of emergency thing started. So we were kind of ahead of things on that. This is our what's the word? The warden. State of emergency has a warden, and this is the guy who's in charge of it. And he started to send text messages to everyone with warnings like stay at home, don't go out unless very urgent. And we started making some funny text notes from his name. And this one, it says that the warden calls on everyone to try and coexist with the families for a while, because the families can be really annoying these days. You just have to deal with them. You just have to stand them for another month or so. This was another one. And then slowly we started allowing certain types of businesses to function in Armenia, like small shops, bakeries, this kind of stuff. And this article says that from May the 2nd, we will allow some small petty crimes, you know, just hijackings, like really small kind of crimes. And finally, when we were about to liberate everyone from the state of emergency, partly, we came up with an article that says showdowns, you know, fights between men will now be permitted, only with some restrictions. You are not allowed to bring your friends who are older. You're supposed to keep the distance, not to get in much in very dense crowds. And as this was going viral too, sort of with all the rules of how guys should fight each other these days, exactly 1 or 2 days after this happens in the parliament. Our very first actual fight that took place in the parliament. Note that a couple of people are wearing masks, and we thought, well, if there's at least one of them who's sick, you know, what's going to happen? We will lose entire parliament for at least 2 weeks. And today we just found out that one of the guys is being tested for coronavirus. So this is kind of us getting ahead of the news, and then the news catching with a bit more drama, catching up with a bit more drama after us. But fortunately, this kind of things actually help. There's much less people believing that Leiden will magically save you from the coronavirus. And I wouldn't say that vodka drinking doesn't continue, but it's come to very reasonable amounts. This much about the current situation of comedy and COVID here in Armenia, and I'd like to pass the word to one of our friends who was here visiting Armenia when we had the press conference, Farai Monro, also known as Comrade Fetso from Magamba TV, Zimbabwe. Hey.
Hey, man. Thank you. I think we're going to play a short video.
All right.
welcome to Zambezi News, where we bring you the news faster than it takes to get rid of two bungling imposters.
We bring you the news as factual and indomitable as two veteran newscasters who aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
We bring you the news reliable, like an authoritarian yet loving and fatherly ruler.
Irreplaceable, irrevocable, undisputable, unperturbable.
We put the swag in news wagon.
Impeccable, ungrateful, impetuous, infectious.
The facts straight to your desk, like the early boy who gets to his school desk early before the other kids get there later after him.
Indivisible, indestructible, immovable, inoculation, innocent, bystander, bilateral, bilingual, bilocal, by decree, for us, by us, FUBU, or 5.
We bring you the news.
Cut! Cut! Cut!
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, guys. So that's a short clip that kind of introduces who I am and what we do. So I am a comedian and satirist from Zimbabwe, and that was a clip from Zambezi News, which it was Zimbabwe's leading satirical news show. It was also Zimbabwe's only satirical news show. But yeah, over the years, we've kind of been part of growing the comedy and satire movement in Zimbabwe. It's a very oppressive country to live in. Until I was 37 years old, I only had one president my whole life, and then he's been overthrown by a new guy who wants to be president for life. So it's quite a crazy context to do satire in. I mean, we produce shows like Zambezi News that we showed you, another popular show, The Week, which is more like, the Daily Show in terms of it's a kind of weekly political roundup of the news. And these shows get us into a lot of trouble in Zimbabwe, but at the same time they get us a lot of viewership and some good features on CNN, BBC, The Guardian, and so forth. But yeah, we get into a lot of trouble. They tried to demolish our offices. They've shut down our festival, and it kind of culminated one year when they arrested our Magamba TV producer and accused her of trying to overthrow the government. So we do get into a bit of shit for what we do. And now coming, in the face of coronavirus and lockdown, we've had to shut down our creative hub where our offices run from, and we've had to think of new ways of getting our satire and our content out there. So we've just flipped the script a bit, and the show that I host, The Week, we've started shooting it instead of in a nice fancy studio with a nice, a nice expansive crew. I now shoot it from my kitchen, and we call it The Week in Lockdown, and it's just me and my smartphone and my selfie stick. And we've gone out to look into doing other kinds of shows that we can do while under lockdown. So we've started also a new kind of popular online comedy quiz show called the Bang Bang Comedy Game Show, where comedians at home on their smartphones are basically hosted by one hilarious dude. And it's one, he hosts two comedians, and they're asked all sorts of kind of raucous political, social, and current affairs questions. And whoever's got the craziest answer wins. And everyone's able to do that from the safety of their own home. And we've also just started a new series called Mythbusters, which is basically using skit comedy as well as interviews with actual health professionals to attack current crazy notions, like such as that 5G caused coronavirus and so forth. But I'm sure Rob can talk more on that, because conspiracy theories seem to be emanating all from the office of the presidency in the United States.
We're number one.
Yeah. So that's basically a snapshot of what we're doing with Magamba TV. in Zimbabwe. And look, it's a crazy time for the world, but it's still a really great time for satire. Our favorite thing to do every week is just wait for our president to make a speech. I'm sure it's very similar in the US, but basically our president in Zimbabwe, Emerson Mnangagwa, makes a speech about the lockdown or lockdown extension. He always makes it 1 week after the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, because he basically copies what the dude says word for word. So we did have a joke the other day when he was a few hours late to make his lockdown extension speech, and we were all joking he was late because his team was still downloading the speech by the South African president, and the Wi-Fi was a bit dodgy. So yeah, that's a little snapshot of the Zimbabwean context. Narek, you're still on mute.
I'm muted. Thank you. And first of all, I want to ask: have you tested the vodka in Zimbabwe, and has it tested positive in helping COVID-19?
Yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately, we're not big vodka drinkers. Beer is more our thing. But our nearby president in Tanzania, John Magufuli, his theory now is he's discounting COVID because he said he sent paw samples and goat samples to the National COVID Testing Center, and they came back positive for COVID. So he says COVID is it's a made up bullshit.
Okay, no, I'm just take this as a call to conduct more tests. That's all I'm saying. And actually, a lot of comedians are now resorting to doing this virtual shows. And here's Dan, who's a popular comedian in Australia, and they just developed a new, specifically a virtual show for the internet. And there's a short clip that we'll see just in a couple of seconds.
Together at home, alone together forever, forever. When life has lost all meaning, the kids are screaming, the rent is due. At least I'm home alone together with you.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, good to be with you. Sorry I can't be on your live stream. It's just that it's 12:30 a.m. in the morning when you're doing this in my time, and at that time I will be in a cold panic in the bath worrying about the show that is about to air tonight on the ABC. My name is Dan Illich. I'm the showrunner and executive producer of At Home Alone Together. 4 weeks ago, another executive producer at entertainment at the ABC gave me a call and they said, hey, we're going to put this comedy show together to give some comedians some work because everything they normally do is out of action. All the shows are cancelled. All the festivals are cancelled. Do you want to show run it? And I said, yeah, let me have a think about that. Of course I do. Yes, indeed. So being a madman, I said yes. And we, over the last 4 weeks, have built quite the machine to create a parody of a lifestyle program on the ABC. And it's pretty wild stuff. It's hosted by a guy called Ray Martin, who is an icon of Australian television. He's kind of like the Dan Rather of kind of journalism. He's an older journalist who has presented everything on Australian television for the last 50 years, and he is so funny and so up for being able to be made fun of and play with his brand. And then in between we've got packages that are created by comedians from all around Australia who have sent in scripts, we've commissioned scripts, and they've shot packages and edited packages and then file managed those packages to a central place, and we've put the show together brick by brick, as well as creating our own sketches to kind of fill the gaps. And what it ostensibly feels like is a big, shiny, lifestyle program that you would see on a commercial television network, but on the ABC, which is a public broadcaster, kind of like PBS in America, or whatever it is that Omri makes his shows on in Israel. You know, a very not the state broadcaster, the public broadcaster. Just need to make back to it's not a state broadcaster like Fox News in America. It's a public broadcaster. And I should point out, we've made this show entirely in our own houses, in isolation. Bodes well for those who want to defund the ABC in the current government, because if they sell their building, we could just continue working from our bedrooms like so. And it's been pretty amazing. On set as well, we adhere to pretty strict COVID-19 protocol. We're wearing gloves and masks, and we are trying to keep the crews to a minimum. One of the things we want to try and make sure we do with the show is kind of elevate it from internet or Zoom kind of camera comedy. We don't want it to look like TikTok or lean into the hokey nature of it. We really want it to look great, and make sure we think about comedy that expands around that world, that isn't oh, look at me, I'm stuck. So hopefully that's the vibe you'll get when you watch this. Hopefully it feels like a big show that could have been on any time, but it's on right now during the end of the world. So we go to air tonight in about 9 hours. It's very exciting. So you are literally the first people to see some of these clips. I'm going to show you the opening titles, a couple of sketches. I hope you like it. The idea is that we are creating a world of this lifestyle program for the coronavirus, and hopefully at the same time giving people a bit of respite from their lock-in situation, but also giving them a bit of a laugh and hopefully delighting them along the way as well. Yeah, so enjoy the little bits of At Home Alone Together that I've cobbled together for you. And get a VPN. Watch the show. 9 p.m. on ABC. Bye.
Coming up, what do you do when you want to wash your hands, but you're not near a sink or a basin? Well, inbuilt soapy pockets. In go the hands. Splashy, splashy, splashy. Out they come. Good as gold. I'll show you how to build them into your entire wardrobe, so you know that you'll always be germ-free. Damn it. I could have used the sink.
Amazing. This looks like brilliant stuff. And did you know he said we'll get stuck exactly at the moment that the actual video got stuck? That was like mental. Okay, the next speaker I'd like to introduce is Franak Visyalov. Am I pronouncing this right? Are you here?
I'm here, sure.
Yeah,
Hi.
There's been a couple of countries that are making headlines these days, like President of Turkmenistan Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, and yes, I just pronounced that name. He just banned coronavirus. He said coronavirus is against the law in the country, and no case was recorded. And the other president who is reluctant to admit that it exists is your president, Alexander Lukashenko. Tell us more about the situation.
Tell you more about Lukashenko. I think
and his acceptance or denial. He's a COVID denier.
He's actually a really COVID denial, and he really believes if I even will change my background. You know, I think I look much better like this one. Yeah. So this famous football player is Lukashenko. He's a sportsman. I believe, you know, if he would be a sportsman, it would be much better for Belarus and for the whole world. But what we joke about Lukashenko, that Lukashenko decided to build alliance with coronavirus. When the whole world decided to fight coronavirus, Lukashenko just built a friendship with him. And besides, you know, these obvious things like vodka is helping, he also invented many other instruments, tools, and solutions for coronavirus. I will share my screen with you. So here you can see, do you see my screen? Yeah. So yeah, here you can see, you know, the the best advices from the best medical professor in the world. And vodka is okay, but it's not enough. And if you drink some vodka, but if you also ride some tractor, that could be much more helpful in fighting coronavirus. But also, Lukashenko is genius because he invented fighting coronavirus with ice hockey. He says that virus is killed by the cold temperature. And when you play ice hockey, all these bacteria, they just like die automatically, by fact. And also young goats. Lukashenko says he especially before COVID started, he adopted some few young goats, and these young goats, they increase his immunity to coronavirus. So please keep in mind this. But other than that, I would like to say some funny things about him. Because people, of course, they are smart, and they understand that vodka doesn't help. And they make jokes of Lukashenko. And Lukashenko is the biggest joke provider to Belarusians who are staying home in self-quarantine. And Belarusians, what they do pictures, they do memes, they do make jokes about him. But also they do performances and happenings. And I'm sure you know these guys, these Ghanaian pallbearers. And this meme video became very popular in Belarus, and some activists decided to make performance using this meme in time of the military parade, and you can see it here. Oh, let me. I will play the video. Give me 1 second. But you see, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about to move, not moving.
Yeah. And what about now? That's right. Basically, people combined here two memes. They use these pallbearers from Ghana and Lukashenko's denial of coronavirus, and they made a happening showing that people are pretending they make funeral, and same time the military equipment, tanks are riding the Minsk downtown. But Lukashenko is often provider of reasons, of occasions to make jokes of him. And another one happened 1 week ago when he used work in the field, and he took a small dog with him.
And then just touch me till I can get my satisfaction.
Push me and then just touch me till I can get my satisfaction.
So of course people use this as a pretext and organize and to joke of this, and that's one of the memes that popped up the next day after this funny video from his usual field inspection happened. Or another one like this. It's like the modern COVID-19 hero, with a small duck in a basket. But all these jokes, they built not only around COVID, but the whole attitude of Lukashenko to the reality. So he basically denies the reality, similar to other dictators like Kim Jong-un or Berdimuhamedov, who was mentioned earlier.
Never mind, I'll find
policy. So basically what inspire us when we do jokes? Reality. And all these things that are happening in Belarus, on one hand, they're very funny because they are stupid, because they are illogical. But on the other hand, these jokes, they helped us to fight the fear. So there are three reasons why we do jokes about the dictatorship, about the reality, because we want to mobilize people. If the government doesn't take care of its own people, then people must care of themselves and self-organize. And the jokes is the most powerful mobilization tool that we ever saw. We have dictatorship for 25 years, and the majority of actions, happenings, performances, they were organized due to creative, smart people with a humor in mind. The second reason is that jokes inspire discussion. And on one hand, we make jokes and videos how potatoes are singing to Lukashenko, but on the other hand, we discuss why it's happening, why Lukashenko's only friend is potato basket or the dog in the basket. And the third one, it's a destroying fears, because people are really afraid of going to the square, of making revolutions. We are not Armenians, unfortunately, who make revolutions, or Ukrainians, who do revolutions every 5 years. We were very modest, and we are very careful and cautious. And only humor is the way to do jokes, to make politics, to change something with no much risk to ourselves. Yeah, I will stop here, and that's that's what's happening right now. I'm sitting here just in front of my window. There is a KGB office, and it's very funny, that I'm sitting here. There is KGB, so I do make jokes of them, and they just like checking all my correspondence, and trying to find the hook to manipulate or to destroy me.
And yet you're right there under their nose.
Yeah, but that's the best place to hide, just to be just in front of their nose, because they're looking, everywhere, but they never see what is inside. And I think if the situation will be changing here, it will be actually changing with from very unexpected reason, and from very unexpected place.
Okay, thank you. And I want to say, I was looking at the chat. There are some really funny COVID jokes. Please do post them, because the winner of the best joke gets a prize. I don't know what the prize is, but it's very valuable. So I've heard. Okay, our next presenter is a famous internet personality by the nickname Maddox. He also happens to be an Armenian. So high five, George, Team Armenia, and there's a short video.
Why, hello there. I'm Cowboy Oxman. Maddox put me in touch with Vlad to speak a bit on comedy during the pandemic. I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm just a simple cowboy who doesn't like to cuss or take the Lord's name in vain. My favorite thing is steak, beef in particular. Well, actually, that's a little bit more general. I did that in reverse order. My mistake. Anyway, I guess I'm supposed to speak on behalf of what can be funny during a global pandemic. Don't know what happened there. But anyway, sometimes these things happen. I don't quite understand technology. But anyway, I guess I'm supposed to speak on behalf of what can be funny during a global pandemic that has taken and changed the lives of millions, generating anxiety and fear. Like, I would say nothing about that is funny. Not a single darn thing. But, humanity is a strong boy. The spirit has a strong spirit. That's what I'm trying to say. It sounded weird. And humanity will persist. Sometimes some of us do some crazy things to take the pressure off and keep people's mind off of the global plague that's slowly nipping at our toes and eating up all our resources and economy. And next thing you know, you're a weird Armenian dude in Hollywood dressed up like a cowboy doing a Twitch stream. But aren't we all, in a way, being a cowboy, in a way? Or not, you know, never mind. That maybe not at all. Maybe not at all. Good people come from all walks of life. That much I know for sure. I heard there's a lot of good folk in Armenia. Sounds like a country I'd like to visit sometime. My nephew Maddox told me all about Armenia when he went there for a trip. He said he ate some of that there lahmacun. Really liked it. It's that thin meat paste on top of a, what would you call it? It's not quite a tortilla, it's not quite a pizza crust. I reckon I'm at a loss for words. I'm actually trying to describe this food, but anyway, you kind of rolled up like a wrap, that's what it's like. It's an Armenian wrap. Not the music, you know. I wouldn't know anything about that. I just listen to it. My tongue gets tied sometimes. Hang on, I need to get some water. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to my nephew Maddox for inviting me to do this, and to the good folks at the DCN. A lot of good, kind folks over there.
So, ain't nothing like a bunch of Armenians trying to do a southern accent, eh? You're a hoot and a riot, Mr. Maddox. All right, I'm getting a question here from Christina. How to be certain that the humor you find appropriate does not offend the people? The situation is quite serious. However, humor is a way to overcome a lot of issues. Who would like to take that? Unmute yourself and go on. Yeah, Rob, please.
Okay, well, unmute yourself is the opposite advice that my family usually gives me. But I wanted to speak to Christina's question because I used to work in a lot of late night shows, and for the Conan O'Brien show and the late night show, the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and we had to face these questions a lot because they were daily shows about the news, and let's face it, the news is usually terrible every day and often very sad. And I think one thing we did was you make sure, the most important thing I think is to make sure that you have a good target for the humor. So I think we've seen already here, people are usually targeting their leaders, which is usually a good thing. Usually the target of the jokes are the leaders, and there's plenty of material. And then also, you know, maybe the media or the so-called experts, or basically the people around a tragic situation, I think, as long as you're sort of making fun of them. If you start making fun of actual people who are suffering or dying, or even hospitals, and I think to some extent healthcare workers, then it sort of comes too close to the tragedy. So I think there's a way to just focus on the parts of any situation that are absurd and attacking sort of those in power or authority, as opposed to those who are suffering from it. So at least that's one way to try to save from offending people.
Yeah. Farai wants to say something.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with what Rob is saying. I mean, I think the role of satire is always to punch up. It's always about punching upwards. So if the satire during the time of this pandemic is focused on our inept government responses, how our presidents are completely mismanaging the situation and so forth, then I think that's very much speaking truth to power and playing the role that satire does. It's when you start punching down, and I think Rob referred to that. When you start punching down is when you need to actually question, is this satire, or are we attacking those who don't have a voice and those who are already marginalized? So I think it's a line that we have to tread, and also realize that as satirists, you're in a very privileged position. Yeah.
Okay, then I just want to quickly mention that the mysterious picture you're seeing behind me is actually your former boss, Rob, Mr. Jon Stewart. Can you really see that? So it's like, what would John do? How would he joke about the coronavirus? It's something we don't know at this point, but the legacy is there, and of course, attack the decision makers, question everything, but then never get too far. Okay, the next person I would like to introduce, our next speaker, is Omri Marcus from Israel. He's the president of Comedy for Change and the current president of the Coronavirus Fan Club around the world.
Thanks, Narek. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah.
Awesome. So hello from the city of Tel Aviv. I'm very excited to be here. What an amazing group of people. And it's interesting, I'm still thinking about this question of Christina about when is it too soon and what about the taboos, but let me talk about the democracy in general, because Israel had an election a week before the coronavirus outbreak. And I think it kind of like made us all, it was a mixture, very sad mixture between elections and cynical use of the pandemic that created very weird times in Israel, even more than all around the world, because we needed to deal both with the political crisis and with the pandemic. The problem with political comedy, as they say, is that they usually get elected. And the people that the Minister of Health in Israel is an extremely religious person that when they asked him what is the solution for the pandemic, he was talking about the upcoming arrival of the Messiah. If we'll all pray and we'll all do what is written in the Bible, we are going to have the Messiah coming over quite quickly, which is, you can't write any jokes about it. It's kind of what I guess can be known as the American dilemma, since the reality is so outrageous and it's so crazy that you can't really make it sound funnier. My wife was one of the writers of Israel comedy show that was broadcast during the pandemic called Zeuze. And they did a couple of very funny sketches that since Zoom is not fit for video, as I saw over the last hour, I think I'll just describe to you the sketch, besides the fact that it's in Hebrew, where that I guess might be a barrier for 53 out of the 54 participants in this webinar. Sorry, Rob, I'm not intending to insult your Hebrew talent. So they did a sketch about fake news generator, a guy that is generating fake news by doing it like a lottery. It has 3 piles of notes, and you are picking one up from each ball. So you know, Taiwan doctor found out that the cure for corona would be in chicken soup. No, that's not good enough. In lemonade, in whatever. And it's kind of like generating all this kind of fake news, and it's just putting them on the WhatsApp and sending it all around the group, and nobody can test anything, which apparently was something that was very common all around the world. So that was kind of like this Israeli comedy, just a metaphor, just a taste from it. But I wanted to talk about, go again to democracy and the fact that right these days, it's not like in previous wars or crises. This time, since we have social media and all the TikTok and Photoshop, it's totally democratized. So you don't really need to wait for the broadcast television to kind of like the funny people to write you the joke, but everybody now is the joke writer. And it's completely shifted the way and obviously the amount. We are bombarded with endless amount of jokes all day long on our WhatsApp about the situation. And like Franak was very interestingly said, that it's kind of like mobilization and helping us dealing with aggression and with the fact that we don't really know a lot about what's going on and we don't know how to deal with it. So the comedy was really helping us to deal with this crazy thing. I mean, my son is 8 and all day long he's downstairs playing with his friends. And you know, I was thinking about that when one of the Twitter writers wrote that this is the time where pedophiles are afraid of kids because they are contagious. I was like, oh, that's a funny way to look at it. I want to show you a couple of stuff that I liked in general, and I think they are kind of like showing interesting points about comedy during pandemic, not necessarily from Israel. Here, I will share my screen. Do you all get to see that? The phone is not mine, obviously.
Omri, as long as it's not your background, we're happy to see it.
Yes, I'll try not to move my head too much. So basically, this is the first responders. This is the kind of like, this is for the first week of the Corona pandemic. This is stuff that I got on my my WhatsApp. And you can see people are kind of like trying to deal with everything that they saw out there. So they are either taking pop references from stuff and they are trying to kind of like making the basic comedy technique of just, you know, combining the two. Like, what would happen if, where is Waldo? And kind of like making you think about the social distancing, or the Tabasco hand sanitizer, or the be like Darth Vader, which is surprisingly similar, the instructions about behaving in quarantine and being like Darth Vader. And then came the observational comedy at the same time, just like I was talking about, the Twitter factor, where you're getting kind of like very interesting observations from people about, I mean, Ponzi Factor is very popular Twitter guy, wrote, it's funny how the economy is about to collapse because people are only buying what they need. I kind of like, it kept me awake at night just thinking about this tweet. And then, you know, since we were bombarded with jokes, I like that one that I got, and I was sure that it was a real one, but obviously it's not, about that France declared war on coronavirus, and then 5 minutes later to get France surrender to coronavirus, which I found extremely funny. And then since, you know, we had an all new reality and people kind of like made fun of this new stuff that joined our life so inherently, so quickly, and they kind of like mixed them together. So, and again, I'm talking about the fact that since it's democratized world now and everybody can generate their own jokes, I'm sure that this joke wasn't created by a professional graphic designer or a professional comedy writer, but someone that had some spare time and was sitting maybe even in the toilet and kind of like played with it and was doing it. Maybe he was babysitting his kids and kind of like needed something to do to spend the time. So he generated that joke and he sent it to his friends that sent it to his friends, and it became viral. And kind of like, I like to think about, you know, people just generated a lot of, they used the opportunity to create funny materials or to kind of like to give a new take on the news. This is someone that I think has, this is maybe from a newspaper or something, but it spread so quickly, so widely. I have no idea now where is it coming from, which is also a very interesting point. The fact that you don't know who is behind the jokes. I like that one as well. It's very one. But lastly, I want to say that the last part of it is the fact that, oh, this one I got yesterday about, this is the coloring page for parents. Which is so true. But lastly came the marketing use of the corona, and obviously advertisers used comedy to promote their products, and as quite often happened, usually either porn or sex-related products are using it first because they are afraid less from the backlash. So the Pornhub ad that was very viral about it's okay, you can touch yourself was very, very funny. Pornhub did a very nice thing when they had an entire website of that looks exactly like Pornhub, only was dedicated for washing your hands properly. It was only clips of people washing their hands. There is nothing pornographic about it, but it just was very funny and created a lot of buzz. And the Hebrew one on the left is saying, exit strategy, go for safe, use Durex. So let's stop sharing. That's kind of like my coronavirus experience.
Thank you, Omri. And the next person I want to introduce is a person that had not one but two jobs I would kill for. He was a writer on The Daily Show. He was a writer on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, or maybe the other show, the next show. And he's now currently doing work in animation. Rob Kutner. Hello, Rob.
Hi.
Tell us what's happening in America. How's America?
Oh, good. Someone who's on my side. All right, good.
We got them here in Armenia. Aren't you surprised?
Is that where they're made? I thought they were made in China.
Okay. You haven't heard this.
So I'm joining you from the surface of Mars because I take social distancing very seriously. And also I want to grow my own potatoes. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I used to be in late night for a long time, and our job was to respond to all these situations. And when it was really sad and it affected the whole world, it was very tough. In fact, if you remember the Pacific tsunami from about I think 10 or 15 years ago, that tsunami, that we were at the Daily Show then, and all of it, and it so happened the show was on a vacation during that, and we were like, oh good, thank God we don't have to cover it. So what a blessing for everybody. But during a hard time, people want some kind of response. People want some kind of response, even if they're watching the news all day long, or they're reading reports that are hearing things from their neighbors. And there's so much seriousness. Everything's gotten serious all of a sudden, which everything used to be kind of, there was a blend of serious and silly in your life every day. And now it's like everything is serious all the time. The tiniest decisions have a consequence sometimes, whether you go outside, what you touch, what you pick up. So I feel like any kind of humor helps restore the balance in the culture. But since I'm not in late night anymore, I'm just on my own now. And I think that they've talked about for the coronavirus that a lot of people have become selfless or helpful to other people, or thinking about their neighbors and that sort of thing. And as for me, I've become a lot more selfish because I'm just thinking about keeping myself laughing and making things to share with everybody else in order to sort of share that with everybody else, so that we can keep our spirits alive. Someone asked on the chat, and it's interesting, what do you do? Can you take on a serious topic? And I think you sort of have to. I think we all panicked and went out and bought toilet paper to survive the crisis. And I think in a way that comedy is kind of like toilet paper you don't have to go out and shop for. It's a survival need. And we need as much of it as we can get, and we keep using it every day. And sometimes it just wipes the shit away that we need. So I thought I'd share just a few little things that I made. This is a little bit along the lines of what Omri was saying, that I connected some things to pop culture because I think, in a way, another service that comedy can provide is by reminding us of pop culture. It sort of is a way, a bridge back to the normal times before, and the normal times that hopefully will come after. It reminds us of a more innocent time. So connecting this bad time to things we love, maybe as a way of restoring our feelings from before, and not feeling trapped in this time, but able to sort of time travel in a way. So let me screen share. These things are in no particular order. 1 second. All right, so here's one. I actually, this is one of the first ones I made with my friend. This is what I would have done something like this on late night if I was there, but I made it with my friend who's a Photoshop guy. Oh, I think that's not the right one. Well, that one's pretty good too. I didn't make this. Can everyone see this? The true cause of coronavirus. So it's Thanos. And okay. Here's another one. Sorry, here's another one I can share. I didn't make this one, but as a comedian in America, of course, everyone's making fun of Trump all the time. But then again, we've been making fun of Trump for 3 years. So what's new? But people have found some new spins on this one. I like this one, and I shared it with everyone. And you remember, there was this quote that President Trump made back in April. Well, he said, "One day, like a miracle, this virus will disappear." And this is like in early April, and a lot of people made fun of him for that. Okay, and so someone did this one. I think we are feeling this more often than that. And here's one more. Let's find it. This is funny because Omri already brought up a version of this, and I did my own, and then other people shared this one that had already been finished. this is my spin on the Where's Waldo thing, where he's in a bad situation. Maybe he's also believing the conspiracy theories as well, and so he thinks it's okay for him to be out. But it just goes to show you that even in a time of Corona, there's still comedians who copy each other or who get mad when some other comedian beats them to the joke, or they have the same idea. So the last thing I thought of that connects us to our previous and our post-Corona world is another song parody. One thing I've been doing is just, I've spent way too much time on social media like the rest of you. And I started joking around with some people I didn't know on Twitter. And it turns out they're musicians who have a band and equipment and they can write songs. And I was like, and we started saying, hey, why don't we write a song parody about this? And we're thinking about making an album of them and selling it online to raise funds for one of the many charities that need it right now. But this is a world preview, because they literally just finished this like about 5 hours ago. They finished editing this, and it's I'm married myself, so I've always put on quarantine by my wife. I'm used to that anyway, even before this. But for the rest of you who are still dating, I understand that romance and dating has suddenly become a very, very huge problem throughout the world. In fact, this one might be one of the biggest, social complications of the coronavirus. So this is part video, part parody, and part PSA to help you through the situation. So hold on a second.
It'd be funny if all of this turns out to be like a stunt by the Corona beer company just to sell more beer. I just saw some of the jokes. If you have time, please do look at the jokes and pick a favorite. So we'll get to choose a winner by the end of today's discussion. So another question that was posted here was, what do you do if you post a joke and then a certain group gets really insulted by your joke? Do you delete the joke or do you keep the joke? What's your tactics? And people do like to get offended these days. It's like really a big deal. Anyone wants to take that? That's a difficult one.
So in terms of if you can repeat the question, like if you offend,
say you posted the coronavirus joke and then a certain group got really offended by it. Let's say people who post animal sex as background during conferences, and they rage in the comments, and then what do? Do you delete your joke?
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I think I guess it depends on what group your satire is targeting. Because definitely if you're going to make a joke about about healthcare workers, that's insulting, then I would take it down. But if you're making a joke about a group with 5G conspiracy theories, and if they crazy in the comments, well, that's great. It means they're watching your satire, and they're probably using 5G to watch it.
You know what's the craziest conspiracy theory so far that I've heard during the coronavirus? I've read it in Armenia, then I saw that it's really big in Russia, and then I saw that there's people in the US in this conspiracy theory too, that the moon is gone. There is no moon anymore. And there was a day when there was no moon, and people made photos of the night and said, well, they stole the moon. And a lot of people were believing this. Do you think comedy helps to break down these myths and these conspiracy theories? Like, what are the ones that you tackled? Or
in such a crazy reality, when you don't really know what is reality and what is fiction and what is a joke and what is serious, comedy is a double-edged sword. And it's I'm very annoyed to say it, because it used to be very clear-cut between comedy, clowns, and the king, politicians, serious people. And since Rob Kutner and his friends at The Daily Show blurred that line between comedy and politics, and they kind of like gave it made very big gray area where comedy is, I mean, the problem with Trump is that he used the same tactic, only, you know, for evil purposes, saying the worst possible things and saying, no, it was just a joke. He can make an imitate of a disabled person saying, no, that was just a joke. He can say about one of the female reporters that blood coming out of everywhere in her body. He's like, no, that was just a joke. Kind of like excuse to saying the most outrageous stuff, unpolite, horrible stuff, and kind of like give it as an excuse for a joke, which, you know, is a very problematic world that we are living in. So we as a comedy writers, we need to have the responsibility, and I want to refer to what Sam said earlier. We need to punch up and never punch down. It's our responsibility to keep it that way. It's completely fair to punch up the 5G conspirators because there are crazy people that are doing very problematic issues in this world, and you can't make fun of the poor people that are losing their work during the coronavirus. First of all, it's just not funny. I mean, I'm not saying that you are not supposed to, but you need to have a very, very good joke in order to do so.
Yeah, that's true. So I propose while we look in the chat for the best pick of the jokes, we will watch Rob's video that didn't get played for technical reasons before. And while we're doing that, please select one joke and we'll pick the winner.
Oh, 1 second.
I see your eyes from 6 feet away. We do an fist bump to say hello. But the moment you get too close to me, I put my gloved hands up and just say whoa. See Corona flies on a summer breeze, or a winter typhoon, or a careless sneeze. So I really need to know, how wet is your cough? Is your cough? How wet is your cough? Is that COVID-19? Cause a dry one means you might have disease, whether full-blown or asymptomatically. Either way, back to quarantine. I swipe right on you, on my freshly disinfected phone. And it's been so long, I'm an incel now. I've touched myself in every room of my home. But I got to do flu diligence, so around my pants I have built a fence. And it's me you need to show. How wet is your cough? Is your cough? How wet is your cough? Is it a raspy sound? Cause our leaders are a bunch of fools, blowing it off when they all should lock us down. Even Guy Fieri's Flavor Town. Okay, I got it. I'm back. You believe me, babe, I'm hot for you. I just have to keep checking my temperature too. So I really need to know, how wet is your cough? Is your cough? How wet is your cough? Do you sound like it does? Cause we're living in a world of schmucks, raising the curve when at home they should be stuck. As for us, we're so not fucked. How wet is your cough? How wet is your cough? Doesn't the president know not to speak outside his expertise? But then again, what exactly is his expertise? Just don't tell us to inject bleach, please, or hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine. How wet is your palm? How wet is your palm? Is that COVID-19? 'Cause a dry one means you might have disease, whether full-blown or asymptomatically. Either way, back to quarantine.
Nice.
I want to point out really quickly one little small thing that people might be interested in, as a, how comedy is made. So I actually came up with the idea probably about 2 weeks ago, and this band takes time to produce stuff. It takes time to make a video. But while this is happening, the story about President Trump going on and saying maybe you can just inject yourself with bleach and all that comes up, and my partner said, well, why don't we make some lines about that? And I said, I think the problem with this Corona thing is that the news, the small stories in the news change all the time. Like the big story is the same, but the small stories, and if you make something small, it's great for that moment, like a meme, like some of these jokes we did for a meme is great for the moment, but we might have this for a long time. You want this to be something that sticks around that people can continue laughing at. So we finally compromised and said, why don't you put a verse in at the end about the bleach, but continue the overall general idea. So just a little view into sometimes even now you have to think about timeliness, and that things change so quickly that things are not funny if they're like a week or two old. That still continues now, for better or for worse.
Yeah, the internet has really took the pace to its maximum these days, because literally the distance between our joke about not kissing and then the minister actually saying that was a couple of hours, and that's where we are. But I hope you've had chance to take a look at the jokes. So my pick, I want to go first and say that my pick for the best joke was the really cheesy pickup line: if the coronavirus doesn't take you out, I will. It was so cheesy, it was good. How about you guys?
Okay, well, I think the joke that I'm going for, I know we're voting for it, but our voting system in Zimbabwe is always a bit dodgy anyway, and we always have the wrong winner. So I think this one technically came maybe after Vlad had ended the jokes, but it's from Ifaza Wahid, who said, "What types of jokes are allowed during quarantine? Inside jokes." A good cheesy joke.
How about you, Rob? Or maybe Omri, if you've picked already.
No, I'm enjoying watching Rob doing the pantomime. Rob, you're on mute. Just
yeah. Okay. You can go first. You can go first, Omri, because you know Zoom better.
I'll go with someone about the inside joke. It is really funny.
Yeah. Okay, Rob.
I like the I'm trying to find it now. This joke from Marek Kaminsky to everyone about I like, because I'm a nerd, I like the joke about Batman. He said, wore a mask, wanted to quarantine, canceled sporting events. The root of the problem was a bat. You were right, Bane. We apologize.
Yeah. Anyone else has a pick? Or?
So I have sent a link on YouTube. Can you please play this?
Can we play it though? We're not sure what it is.
Okay. Hi, this is Fatima. This is my first Zoom meeting. I have no idea how it works. I'm trying to figure it out. I attended the whole meeting, and I just wanted to give my vote for the best joke before I go attend my baby who's crying. So I'd go for the inside jokes because we are staying inside. So yeah, and it was really nice seeing you all. I especially woke up for this meeting early in the morning today because I didn't want to miss it. I missed the earlier Zoom meeting. And I hope to join you guys. Thank you so much for making me laugh early in the morning and make my headache go away.
Thank you so much. And I think we have a pretty clean winner, right? The inside jokes.
Yeah.
And, is a mysterious voice going to announce what the prize was at this point? Because we're all curious, you know?
Yeah, we want to know.
I've just sent you a link of YouTube. Can you please play this one?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think Anna will have to look at that link. Anna, the moderator, will have
Yeah, definitely. Can you hear me? If you could hear me. So the price is a digital communication network hoodie. They're very great. They're great. So we'll send them as soon as the shipping services are going to be working again. But
Comes with a mask,
that's
right?
the price.
It has a mask
Comes
built in.
Everything that you could imagine in relation
Great.
to coronavirus.
So they're going to get their prize in 2025, yeah?
Yeah, like all of us.
The second prize is 1 square of toilet paper.
Perfect. Do you have a second winner?
Spoiler: the video is like 7 minutes long, and it's a stand-up bit.
Yeah, the video is.
We don't do it at this point, huh? What do you say?
Fortunately, I think we'll have to watch it afterwards.
On our own.
Yeah, and we have emails for everybody, so we could send the video, to everybody who was in attendance. So we could do that.
All right. I think we've covered pretty much all the questions, and we've sort of found out what everyone is up to, what's happening in the world, and it's very much the identical thing in every country is happening with some minor tweaks here and there. So I'd like to thank everyone. It was really a treat to talk to you guys once again, and I hope to do this the old-fashioned way once the coronavirus is over.
What? Imagine that.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for hosting us. Thanks for hosting us, Narek. It was a lot of fun. Hope to see you in Armenia soon. Franak, good luck with your president. He sounds more crazy than mine at the moment.
I have just sent you. I have just sent you to a YouTube link. Can you please play this?
We'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
All right,
guys. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Yes, bye.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Vlad.
Bye.
Peace out. All.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.